If it saves just one life, then it is justified. Of course, all those billions of dollars are diverted from other courses of action which might have actually saved lives. These people do the same all the time. In fighting global warming, they want government subsidies to get people to buy technologies that are not cost effective. What would have happened if those billions of dollars subsidizing people buying solar that does not work had been spent on research to develop solar that actually does work? These people are not interested in solving problems. They are interested in power and telling other people what to do. They never propose solutions which might actually work. They only propose solutions which involve them ordering and bossing other people around. They blame global warming for the violence in the Middle East. It was biofuels developed to fight global warming which drove the price of basic foods up so high in the Middle East that when a drought occurred, it produced widespread revolution. They blame a lack of gun control laws for mass shootings. California has the most stringent gun laws in the country and has more mass shootings than Texas. Gun control makes guns into symbols of power which are attractive to emotionally disturbed people, causing mass shootings. Mass shootings are a mental illness identical with the mental illness of gun control. This mental illness is occasionally transmitted to gun rights states, but it is epidemic in gun control states. The NRA was invented in England under Queen Victoria. An Englishman could buy any weapon he wanted to, but it was illegal for the police to be armed on their daily rounds. Substantiated moral leadership and honest social reforms lowered violent crime in England. Gun control was initiated in England from fear of socialist or communist revolution in the early 20th century. Recently, people in England have been talking about arming their police. After 100 years of gun control on an island nations with a powerful navy, the criminals are so well armed and violent, they are thinking of arming their police force for the first time in its history. California and Texas have almost identical histories and ethnic makeups. California has stringent gun control laws, Texas does not. There is no significant difference in firearms violence. The only things gun control laws do for California is to cause it to have more and more serious mass shootings than Texas. Gun control is not about saving lives, it is about petty tyrants bossing other people around. Now let me analyze the above in a bit more depth. Excuse me a moment. I need to clear my throat, drink some water, and all that good stuff. Whew, this is where a Google Hangout with multiple people is good, because then I can shut the hell up, rest my throat, and let someone else take over reading. Okay. So Arrog continues to say, now let me analyze the above in a bit more depth. My father worked in the homicidal ward in an asylum in Austin while I was an infant. He was a Freudian and used hypnotherapy. Me personally, I personally prefer the psychological perspectives of Jung to Freud, but whatever floats people's boat. He brought his work home with him, so I was bounced on the lap of homicidal maniacs when I was about a year old. Oh, cute. He was also fond of B.F. Skinner. I do remember him reading us revelations from the Bible. He psychoanalyzed it in Freudian fashion for sexual symbology. So you get it. I see the world differently than most people. Now, that bit about England is still all fact-based. Fact, England did not cut firearms violence with gun control laws. It cut violence by sustained moral leadership and honest social reforms. The Victorians, led by men like Carlyle and Dickens, were big on progressive social reforms. But let us look in particular at the idea of an armed citizenry and an unarmed police force. Assume you are a child growing up in that Skinner box. You learn as a child that the power and authority come from a badge, not a gun. Everyone has a gun except the police, but they have the power and authority. On the other hand, if you have an unarmed citizenry and an armed police force, then growing up you learn that power comes from the barrel of a gun, and if you can get a gun, you will be powerful. This causes children to look to guns as a source of power and personal validation. This causes gang shootings and violence on the streets. The war on drugs is also a factor, but psychologically, the role of the gun and how children learn to perceive it is probably more important. Yep, again, it goes back to what I say all the fucking time. The facts of any matter are completely irrelevant because people take actions based on their belief systems, not on facts. And actions have consequences. So even if a belief system is total and pure bunk, if you take an action based on a bunk belief system, you are going to have tragic fucking consequences. Moving on. So that goes to, how people perceive it is probably more important. Fucking A, it is. I think that England got it right by accident. The RKBA was an item of fanatic faith in the 19th century England. They invented the NRA. After a generation or two of unarmed police force and an armed citizenry, it no longer seemed that important. The flaw in the argument is the idea that England today has criminals so well armed and violent that they need to arm their police. That is what I think they are saying, and they are proposing arming their police, which will be a tragic mistake. I think that they are receiving in their Skinner box a lot of American TV and SWAT teams and so forth, and I think they are acting more on SWAT envy than on a real need. Still, it is a fact that it is not gun control that made England as civilized as it became. It was a combination of sustained moral leadership, real social reforms improving the lives of the poor and working classes, and a well-armed citizenry and an unarmed police force. Now, the bit about the psychology of gun control being identical with the psychology of school shootings is true. It does cause California to have more school shootings than Texas. I have looked at the stats on both liberal and conservative sites, and while liberals lie about what the stats say, it is true. Gun control causes school shootings. Gun control kills innocent children by making guns attractive to emotionally disturbed individuals as totems of fear and power. Hence, Hitler Youth, anyone? Remember what Hitler did? Remember how Hitler was saying, give me the minds of your youth and you'll see a very different country? Or it's something thereby similarly worded. It's not a direct quote. Hitler and his boys also said that through mass media, you can shift the perspectives of people that view heaven as hell and hell as heaven, or insanity as sanity and sanity as insanity, and so on and so forth, as has happened. And also through that mentality, as Einstein warned, pseudoscience can be labeled as real science and become a religion. Science ceases to become the exploration of fact and truth and what is, and becomes the quest to preserve obsolete models as righteous, holy doctrine that if you dare blaspheme against it, you are an unprofessional fringe nut. And there's a call coming in that I don't recognize, so that can shut up. Anyway, I have my a phone number linked to my Skype, so that's why that sort of thing can happen. Moving right along. The bit about Texas and California being essentially identical for purposes of analyzing firearms violence is also true. It proves that gun control laws do not work. California has all the common sense laws which are being advocated, and their only significant effect is to kill children in California by stimulating emotionally disturbed individuals to commit mass murders. These laws kill children. Not so common sense is what I feel that I have. What an insane world feels as common sense is, well, insanity. Common sense does not work here. You pass gun control laws which cause mass shootings, which causes you to pass more gun control laws which cause more mass shootings. It is a destructive spiral or irrational fear and stupidity. Finally, the argument that spending money on gun control is a waste of money and that such resources can and should be spent to produce greater good in other ways is quite true and valid. Gun control laws simply do not work. Because of the psychology involved, they make guns more attractive and gun violence more prevalent among the poor, the underprivileged, and the emotionally unstable. And let me say something, guys. As always, the videos I make are only to speak to the like-minded. When someone has their mind made up about how they are going to perceive reality, it is an impenetrable titanium wall. Any facts you throw at that wall are only absorbed by that wall, obliterated by that wall, and make that wall stronger and more fortified and even more difficult to get through. Facts don't convince people of shit. And this is the hard lesson that the so-called truth movement has been learning. They're under the impression that, oh, well, if they have a few facts about some knowledge that was kept secret, that now they're enlightened and they're awake and they're immune from all of the psychological hang-ups that make humanity human. To me, it's like saying, well, I'm awake, so because I'm awake, and that means I know that I have cancer, and because I know I have cancer, I don't have cancer. But those of you that don't know you have cancer, you have cancer, yeah, because you don't know you have cancer, so that means you have cancer. But because I do have cancer, I magically don't have cancer. And that's the way people get in the truth movement when it comes to, oh, I'll sprinkle facts like pixie dust and that will magically cure and heal the damaged emotional and psychological states of humanity and magically cure their own psychological and emotional cancer that they have contracted through growing up in this fucked up society like the rest of us humans did. To quote psychologist Jiddu Krishnamurti, it is no measure of health to become well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And this is a profoundly sick society. And we all grow up becoming, for all intents and purposes, for the most part, well adjusted, unfortunately. And until like it leads to nervous fucking breakdown, then midlife crises now start at like age 13, you know, because things are ramping up. And yeah, I mean, you know, fucking flip out sessions and everything all over the place. And, you know, the truth movement has become one big choir of flip out sessions. And we have to realize that, hey, you know, we've all got our emotional and psychological damage. And if we don't face it and heal it, then it's like the alcoholic refusing help. Nope, nope. I'm not an alcoholic. I can quit drinking whenever I want. I'm fine. Shut up. You're delusional. You're the one with the mental problem. Go away. You're a bully. You're racist. You're sexist. You're stupid. You're against gun control. So yeah, fuck you. Get away from me. So yeah, it's like, you know, the truthers are no better. So-called spiritual people that think that living in constant, terrifying fear of lowering their vibrational state is somehow being in a high vibrational state of love and light. Makes about as much fucking sense as gun control. You know, and then of course there's the fundamentalist Christians, which is to greater or lesser degrees most Christians that I've ever seen, that think that being narcissistic and unintentionally abusive, I mean, they have good intentions, but, you know, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. You know, they think that virtue signaling hate in the name of Christ is a loving action that will then save people. And of course, I can't forget the atheists who think that getting high on their own pseudoscience, fumes, and calling everybody else who disagrees with them fucking idiots is the height of intellectual superiority. The list goes on, but I fucking die. Rest. Okay, so we have some more statistics down here. This link contains FBI statistics for deaths by gun by state. Oh, well, let's conveniently forget that people die more from car accidents than shootings. Let's ban cars, man. They're evil. Oh, let's ban fire. Let's ban spoons. They made me fat. Goddamn spoons. We need to ban those semi-automatic and automatic AR spoon weapons and lighters and matches and cars, because think of the children. Anyway, Hitler thought of the children. That's why he was in favor of gun control. California murders 1,799, total firearms 1,220. Texas murders 1,089, total firearms 699. Looks like California's winning that fucking contest. California has all the common sense firearms laws that the president is promoting. Texas does not. Gun control laws kill people. Wait a minute, that the president is promoting? I haven't heard Trump being in favor of gun control, unless that was copied and pasted from an earlier article when Obama was in office. Then yeah, he was the president. And that boy was all about the gun control, yo. Uh-oh, was that slightly racist? Uh-oh, can't have racist humor. You know, obviously, you know, you can't say a joke and mean it as a joke. You're just automatically a Nazi or something. Anyway. So yeah, we got all these lovely little statistics here. Texas was a state in Mexico. It became an independent republic and then joined the Union. California was a state in Mexico. It became an independent republic and then joined the Union. So, you know, that means you got a pretty high Hispanic population by default. As you can see, the proportion of Hispanics in California and Texas is basically identical. African American population. A little more in Texas, actually. Texas has a slightly higher rate of African Americans than California. Contrary to stereotypes, this does not seem to impact deaths by firearms. The stats are very clear. Gun control laws do not fucking work. They are a logical fallacy. They are a pixie magic fairy dust fucking illusion, delusion, mental sickness. In fact, they seem to make the problem worse. Well, duh, those who do not learn from history are doomed to fucking repeat it. Liberal sites try to lie about this. In counting mass shootings in Texas, they count gang shootings, criminal shootings, etc. They do not provide similar stats. For California, they're lying to you. And now, granted, as a centrist, I will state that conservatives, or canservatives as I like to call them, have their own forms of malware, just as I stated about the well-intended truthers, and just as I stated about the well-intended Christians, and just as I stated about the maybe well-intended, maybe not atheists, and just et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, every tribal group, the left, the right, the alt-left, the alt-right, the truthers, the birthers, the new agers, the Christians, the blah, 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 blah. They all think they're on the side of light, fighting against evil, and can do no wrong, and it's always and forever always the other guy. It's the other guy's fault. It's the other guy. It can't be that we're stupidly letting assholes and psychopaths run things. No, let's not take personal responsibility. That's too damned inconvenient. And of course I replied, you should consider doing YouTube videos on this stuff. If you're camera shy, just use Google Hangout and screen share mode and toss these things into a DeviantART journal and read it out loud. I do that from time to time. I'm damn tempted to do it with your response here, and lo and behold, doing it with his response there is exactly what I've done. So now, yeah, I got one more thing to cover. One moment while I moisturize my mouth again and my throat. Yeah. Ugh. Whew. Man, I'm a talkative person, but I have no idea how people who like get up in front of crowds and do public speaking for like 6 hours straight and shit. Like, oh my god, I don't know how they don't lose their voice. Jeez. Anyway, so the final thing I want to mention, a little bit of breaking news that may or may not be fake news or whatever. I want to give you my personal take on this, and this take is going to be different than the left or the right, or the up or the down, or the truthers or the new agers or whatever. Allegedly, supposedly, I'm not even going to say this is or isn't true, because I've just seen some YouTube videos, headlines, whatever. I've not done any deep research to substantiate shit. So I'm not going to sit here and say something is or isn't true, but allegedly, supposedly, breaking news, maybe breaking fake news, I don't know. Second Amendment is in danger. The Democrats are pushing to repeal the Second Amendment. Oh noes, oh woe is us, oh everybody fear, 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 disable your critical thinking skills through fear, through fight or flight, get all afraid so that you can't think critically, so that you can be more easily controlled by the corporate powers that be, that puppet government, and put on a little WWE wrestling show for your benefit so that they can rape you in the ass. Yeah, pretty fucking much. That's my view of it. Do not be in fear of this shit. Do not. That's what they want you to do. Because the left and the right, it's one guy holding two puppets, metaphorically speaking. Two sides of the same coin. Two halves of the same pile of dog shit. So I wouldn't worry about it. But Dave, what if they do actually repeal the Second Amendment? Oh my God, it's going to be the end of the world and dogs and cats living with each other. No. First of all, in my opinion, TM, they're not going to be able to do it. I don't even think they are realistically pursuing it. Because the kerfuffle it would create that they are not able to directly control and puppet is too risky for them. You see, narcissistic, psychopathic morons with power and money only like to create chaos that they can control. You know, it's like breaking in a wild horse, right? They don't break in a wild horse out in nature where the horse has dominion. They put that little bitch in a stall, confined, contained. They control that chaos. And they break that horse. So yeah, I don't think they're going to risk creating the kerfuffle of uncontrolled chaos that could backfire on them. But Dave, what if they're getting desperate and kind of like on Criminal Minds when they talk about narcissists and serial killers and that kind of mentality, as they're on their upward swing to refining their tyranny, Criminal Minds, the BAU, Behavioral Analysis Unit, they refer to that as the serial killer or psychopath is evolving. They're becoming more refined in their technique, getting better at it. Then they hit a climax point, that instability, when they start to realize that their delusions, what they're really ultimately looking for, doesn't exist, can't exist. It's been nothing but a sick fantasy. It's unobtainable. Anxiety kicks in, and they start then to devolve, as the Criminal Minds show calls it, and they kind of start to implode, which has them making messy mistakes and slip-ups, which then allows them to be caught. And it's that last part that should put your mind at ease, allows them to be caught. What if they did repeal the Second Amendment? What then? In my opinion, TM, here's what would happen. I don't think any federal enforcement personnel would have any desire whatsoever to go head-to-head up against not only the citizenry of the Second Amendment states, who all have the, cold dead hands attitude about guns, that you're not gonna take my gun except over my dead body. So obviously, they're not going to want to go up against countless millions of armed citizens. The law enforcement in those states sure as hell ain't going to want to go up against that. If anything, the law enforcement would be on the side of the people in those states and deputizing the people in a blanket deputization, probably on local TV, and saying the feds are coming to try to take our shit. We need all able-bodied people that know how to shoot a gun and know how to fight and so on and so forth to come to the aid of the local police. So the feds are not going to want that kind of fight. No way. That is uncontrolled chaos. That is a battle that they would lose. It would instantly create the Second American Revolution, and it would put ideas in the minds of the people in the gun control states like, wait a minute. if they're doing this shit, we can do it too. And, you know, all these Wall Street idiots would be out of power. And, you know, I personally think that Donald Trump would also be on the side of the people. I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not a Trump fan. I think it's all a dickwag. But, you know, for the greater glory of Trump's own personal agendas and ego and self-serving narcissism, his brand of narcissism seems to be more business-oriented, the idea of customer satisfaction, as it were, that pleasing the customer makes the most profit. So he's of that school of thought as far as I can tell. And so I think that he would definitely back the people in moral decisions like that. And it would also, if he has any real intention of draining the swamp, which I don't know, he seems to be doing more filling it than draining it. But if he does have any intentions of draining it, and he is playing some sort of long game of Go, and seeing if he can convert his enemies into assets instead of just outright kicking them out. If he's playing that long game, then obviously it would expedite things if there was this sort of Second Amendment kerfuffle, and then he could get up on TV and say, hey, this is an attempted coup d'etat committed by various Wall Street powers. And then y'all can have the mass arrests that people have been preaching about forever and ever. Fucking Drake Bailey and Benjamin Fulford and all these people that are like, oh, yeah, any day now, we're going to have mass arrests. Yep. The heroes are going to save you. You're going to have saviors, military saviors, political saviors. Bad guys are going to, yeah, right. No. I'm really sick of hero talk, because it's all virtue signaling, false promises, bullshit. It's a simple fact that when we collectively get our shit together, we will be our own heroes. We will be our own saviors. We together will turn this country around, and no president, no virtue signaling speaker like Drake Bailey or Benjamin Fulford or David Wilcox. I mean, don't get me wrong, the science David Wilcox does is really cool, and he's a good speaker, and I'm not saying that his facts are unfactual. I'm just saying he's a narcissistic turd who is more about ego and money than helping anybody. But hey, that's my opinion, TM. But anyway. So yeah, worry not about your Second Amendment being taken away, and if ever they try to take it away, rejoice, because that is going to lead to some fast and furious positive change. It's going to motivate people to get up off their asses, to stop virtue signaling, to come together with compassion and empathy for each other, and to finally realize, like, whoa, tyranny's a thing, and the social justice warriors are kind of wrong about, like, basically everything. And maybe it'll spark a little bit more of that not-so-common sense to finally start to prevail as the citizens take personal responsibility, finally, and maybe the country can finally come together. So they want to try to take the Second Amendment away. I'm all for them trying, because I already know that's going to be a fail that is going to do nothing but benefit the people. It's not going to lead to FEMA camps and Nazi Germany Part 2. It's going to lead to lots of Wall Street criminals in jail, and the people learning a greater sense of personal responsibility, dropping the blame game bullshit, owning their shit, and finally being willing to cooperate to maybe make America great again in more than just virtue signaling with red hats, with white text, and maybe actually truly doing something instead of the entitlement attitude that both the conservatives and libtards each have their own personalized brew of. It's like a beer, you know, personalized brew. So yeah, that is all I have to say on that. And definitely, if you're on DeviantArt, give Arrog some love too. Go subscribe to him, arrog.deviantart.com. If you want to know how to spell that name, please be kind, rewind the video, and it was on the screen share. And again, the links and information is also going to be in the description of this video. Eventually, it might take me a little bit to get around to putting it all in there because I am seriously backlogged on putting social media information into videos and all of that. I apologize for that. I will, play my game of catch up as quickly as I can, but inevitably, all of that will be in there. But if all else fails, go to paradigm-shifting.deviantart.com and search my gallery for keywords magical, protection, and that comic will come up. And you'll find Arrog there, and you'll find the conversation there, everything he typed up, and so on and so forth. So, Chatelet, Praise Cat, fuck the normies who are in favor of gun control. No do way of the not so common sense. And have a good day. Catch you later. Bye.